Hi and welcome or welcome back to the Books Everywhere. So today we are going to do an unhaul video. It's been a long time coming and it's been a long time since I did an unhaul video, like months and months ago I think. So yeah, this is something I've been meaning to do for a while and I've kind of been putting off until I was actually starting to pack my books for the move. So you've probably seen that I did a video a couple of months ago where me and my brother are moving out of my parents' house and into a little house together. That time is almost here. It's time that I start actually packing my books because we are in the final stages of preparing that house for me and my brother to move into. So I thought as I pack and as I get ready, get all of my books ready, I may as well go through them all and do an unhaul. I have been keeping an eye on my shelves for quite a while now, just thinking about what do I not want to keep long term. So I do have some ideas of what I want to go through on my shelves, but I am going to try and be quite brutal with this one. As you can see, I have a lot of books that are stacked in front of other books here. I do not have the space for the amount of books that I own, and although I am moving and getting another bookcase, I still don't think I'm going to have the space for the amount of books I own, and I'm constantly acquiring new books. So I 100% need to do quite a thorough sort through of my books and be quite brutal with what I want to keep and the space I want to use up. So I am going to try and do that with you today. I'm going to try and do this in kind of a vlog format where we go through each shelf by shelf and pick out books I definitely want to unhaul and maybe want to unhaul, and then I'll go through the maybes I think at the end and try and make a final decision on what I want to unhaul. So yeah, we're going to do this, which is terrifying, but is much needed. So I do have a couple of books that I've just been putting to the side because I knew I was going to do this video quite soon. So I'm just going to go through those before we actually go through all of my shelves. So these are all books that I have read quite recently and just decided that I'm not bothered about keeping them. So I usually keep books if I think I'm going to reread them at some point or if they mean a lot to me. These in particular are ones that I don't see myself rereading, and they are thrillers as well. These four are thrillers. So I think I'm less likely to reread them because I know what's going to happen and it doesn't have the same kind of tension or compulsion to carry on with the story. So the first one is From the Embers by Ali Martinez. The second one is So Pretty by Ronnie Turner. The third one is Someone Is Watching You by Tess James Mackey. And the last one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I read all of these on audio, so I own them on audio now. They are absolutely brilliant audiobooks, so I don't necessarily feel the need to keep my paperback, and I'm also not a big fan of this cover particularly, or how it looks on my shelf, and if I'm not going to collect the rest of them I don't see the point in keeping this one particularly. Another reason why I do keep books is if I just really like the look of them on my shelves or I see them as part of some kind of set or collection. This one, because I'm not going to purchase the others, I'm not too bothered about keeping. Then I am also going to unhaul These Broken Stars series. It's probably got another name, I think it's Starbound series, by Megan Spooner and Amy Kaufman. I haven't actually read their Fractured Light and I am going to try and read it before I unhaul it, but I don't see myself keeping this series once I've read them all, so I'm going to add these to the unhaul pile as well. So that's already 7 books on this list. Now to start going through all of this, which might take a while because I'm going to have to move a lot of stuff and move some of the books in front to go through every single book I own. But let's get started. So just to be thorough, I just wanted to give this a quick glance over. I'm not currently preparing or thinking about unhauling any of these, but I just wanted to acknowledge that these books exist and they are staying with me, and I don't have any plans to unhaul any of these in this video. We then have this like TBR trolley that I just use for extra storage. Definitely keeping all of the ones that are stacked on the floor because they're ones I've recently acquired. Not even going to glance at this because it's my Addie LaRue collection and I'm definitely not unhauling any of those. I am just going to move these though and check behind because I think there might be a few that I'm willing to part with on the trolley that's behind that stack. So the ones that were behind there is the Deadly Education Scholarmance series by Naomi Novik. I read this earlier in the year and I'm not planning on rereading them, so I'm not too bothered about keeping them on my shelves. I have the Waterstones exclusives editions of the first two. This one is actually the Illumicrate edition but with a standard dust jacket on. Not 100% sure where my Illumicrate dust jacket is, but I really didn't like the gold it was, so I swapped it for the standard one, which I think I must have had a standard edition as well. So I could do with finding the original dust jacket if I put it somewhere, or I swapped it with somebody, not 100% sure. But yeah, I need to sort these out and unhaul these. Okay, the next step, I'm going to go down from the top and there is stuff on top of this shelf, so I'm going to go up there and get some books down and we will sort through them. Okay, so I got some down from the top of my shelf and we have some decisions to make. So the first one I am definitely going to unhaul is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I did not love this book as much as everybody else did, and I do have another copy which is just a standard paperback copy that's I can't remember which edition it is, but I'll point out if I come across it. I think it's on this shelf up here. But I don't feel the need to keep that copy and this copy, so I'm going to unhaul this hardback edition here, which is I think it's the 10th anniversary edition if I remember rightly. Then we have my first one for the maybe pile, which is this copy of Endgame by Mallory Blackman, which is a signed edition. I don't have the rest of the series, I only have Noughts and Crosses and this one now, but Mark gave me this one, so I really don't want to unhaul it. And it is signed as well, so I'm going to put it in the maybe pile for now. Another one that I think I am going to part with this one, to be honest, because I want to collect all of the Beth O'Leary books in paperback. I currently only have the Switch, but I just like how they look in paperback and I'm not inclined to collect all the hardbacks, so I think it would be strange if I just had the no-show in hardback. It is signed by the author. I haven't actually read this yet, but I bought this for my mom and she gifted it back to me because she's just not bothered about keeping the books that she reads. So I don't really know why I have a signed edition, to be completely honest. But yeah, I might pass this on to somebody who will appreciate this more and get the paperback edition myself so I can have a full paperback Beth O'Leary set. I think this even might be out in paperback now because I'm pretty sure that I bought this for my mom's birthday last year. So it's been over a year since this was released in hardback, if I'm remembering correctly. So it might actually be available in paperback now anyway. And another one for the maybe pile is Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. Again, I feel like so many people absolutely love this book and I just didn't enjoy it as much as everybody else seemed to rave about it. It was okay and I did still like it, but I'm not too bothered about keeping this one and I don't really see myself rereading it. I think I'm more inclined to keep graphic novels because I'm more inclined to reread them because they're so quick. So this is one that I'm a little bit more unsure about, and I actually think I might see if Mark wants it because he might want this one. It might be one that he's heard about as well and wants to try out, and I think it's actually going to be turned into a TV show. I don't know if that's just something I've pulled from my brain. Don't know if it exists or not, but I think it might be being turned into a TV show. Yeah, I'm putting this in the maybe pile. I'm not sure about this one. Then we have a bit of a difficult decision with my copies of Extraordinary by V. Schwab. I collected all of these when this volume was released. This is volume 1, and I don't think there's been any more since. I collected all of these last year when this was released, and I thought I would love it a lot more than I did, and I wasn't a big fan of this one either. I love the Villains and the Villains series, which is Vicious and Vengeful, and this is a spin-off graphic novel, but I'm not inclined to keep all of these. It's a big space for just one volume to keep 5 copies of it on the shelf, just because they have different covers, so I need to work out which one I want to keep or which ones I want to keep. I have the Waterstones signed edition here, but I'm not a big fan of the cover, so I think that one can go. Again, I think Mark might have one of these off me as well. I then have the Forbidden Planet signed copy, which I actually quite like this cover, but it's not my favourite one. I then have this one, which I think is the standard edition, and then I have this one, which I'm not sure which edition this actually is. Is this the Illumicrate edition or is the other one the Illumicrate edition? This one is also signed, so I'm not 100% sure which edition this one is, to be completely honest. I think that this one is the Illumicrate edition, but now I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, this one's also signed, so I think this one's the Illumicrate one. And this is definitely the cover I love the most, and the colour like I love the most. Seeing the spine, like the purple spine, I really love purple, and I love this purple, so I'm most inclined to keep this one. Does mean unhauling these, like all of these, which I don't want to part with them particularly, especially like I love this one, and it does feel like a shame to get rid of signed ones. I think the other one I'm inclined to keep is this one. So I think I'm going to put this one in the maybe pile. I also really love this black and white cover, but I just don't need to keep all of these. And then I think I'm going to put all of these in the definitely unhaul pile and see if maybe Mark wants a copy, because I think he said he was inclined to have a copy. The other reason I'm inclined to keep this one is it says it's got bonus material in it, and it definitely does feel thicker than the others. Yeah, it has like a cover gallery in the back and some extra material. I think it has an interview. It has a short story in the back, which I think might be in a different edition, or it might be in Vicious or Vengeful, not 100% sure. It has a cover gallery. It has an interview with V. Schwab. So I'm inclined to keep both of these now I've looked through them, which I'm glad I have done. I might see if Mark wants to keep this one, and I'll keep hold of this one, or if he would like any of the other copies as well. But these two I think I will keep. Okay, now it's time to sort out these couple of shelves here, so I'm just going to pull a few off that I've got my eye on and show you my decisions. I'm not going to unhaul this, but this was the edition that I meant, which is the Bloomsbury Modern Classics edition, and it's the old style cover. Really love this cover and this matte like cover. I bought this one secondhand specifically to get this, and there is a set that I would like to collect a few more of these titles, but I think they're quite hard to get at the moment. But just to say, this is the copy of the Song of Achilles that I'm keeping. Okay, I have pulled a few off the shelf, and honestly, I think hiding your books for a while kind of works, because there was a couple on the shelf that I'd forgotten I owned, and I wasn't bothered evidently about not owning them, so I think that's quite a good idea in a way. So the ones I pulled out that I'd honestly forgotten I had is Written in the Stars by Aisha Saeed. I actually really loved this book, and I think I kept it because I enjoyed it so much more than I expected to. However, I'd forgotten I had it, so I can't be that bothered about it. So that's going in the definitely pile. The other one was Pride by Ibi Zoboi. This is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, which I did enjoy when I read it, but I can't remember that much about it now, and I don't feel the need to reread it. It's also a different size to all of the other books on the shelf, so it really stands out and isn't necessarily part of like a set or anything. So I'm going to unhaul this one as well. I'm also going to unhaul my collector's edition of They Both Die at the End, which is apparently signed, which I did not realise, in a very odd spot. But this one I mainly bought because I wanted the essay in the back of it for my dissertation, because Adam Silvera wrote an essay on TikTok and the impact on TikTok on this book and on the release of this book and the fact that this edition exists, and I wanted to be able to reference it in my dissertation and give it a proper read and have it to hand. So I did mainly purchase this book to have the interview and the extra bonus content that was in the back of here for my dissertation, but I don't feel the need to keep it because I do have a paperback edition, and I'm honestly not a big fan of the gold on this copy, to be honest. I'm then going to unhaul The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Don't know why I've forgotten her name. I have so many copies of this book. This is the original paperback I had and I read, so it is a difficult decision to part with this one. However, I do not need the amount of copies I have. I prefer the new Penguin paperbacks, which are these ones, which I have a matching Starless C that Penguin sent me. So my decision came from having this cover. So I'm going to unhaul this cover because I don't need two black paperbacks of The Night Circus. So that one is also going. The other one is Must Love Books by Shauna Robinson, which I have read. It's set around publishing. It's a romance set around publishing. I think I listened to the audiobook, so I probably own the audiobook anyway. and I don't really see myself rereading this one necessarily, although I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars, so this one is also being added to the unhaul pile. Okay, on to the next shelf. Okay, I've pulled quite a few off that shelf. As you can see, there is quite a gap there. The first one is like one of my copies of The Places I've Cried in Public by Holly Bourne. This one meant a lot to me in a period of my life where I really needed this book to realise what was going on around me. I don't really want to go into more than that, but it does mean a lot to me because of when I read it. However, I have 2 paperbacks of this. One has green sprayed edges, one has purple. They are exactly the same. I bought this on a whim because I was in such an emotional place and I loved it so much at the time. However, I don't need to keep both copies, so I'm going to keep the one with purple sprayed edges and unhaul this one. I've also got Of Cursing Kisses by Sandra Menon. I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I expected to, and I do enjoy the cover quite a lot. So this one's harder to unhaul, but I just don't see myself rereading it. I did for a while think I would carry on with this series, and I think if I'm ever looking for something particularly easy or in this genre, then I might go back to the series, but I don't feel the need to own them necessarily, so I'm going to unhaul this one. You will notice a lot of these books are ones that I have read and feel like I've outgrown. They are teen, and I don't see myself rereading them for that reason. Like, not only that reason, but like I'm keeping a lot of my YA. But part of the reason I'm unhauling these is because I feel like I won't have the same appreciation for them now as I did when I was a bit younger, so I'm not going to keep them for that reason. The next one is Golden Boys by Phil Stamper, which I actually read very recently, like in the past few months, and I did really enjoy it, but I just don't think I'm going to reread it, so I don't feel the need to keep this one on my shelves. Do love this cover though, and I may read Afterglow, which is the second book in this series. Then I have The Henna Wars and Honey and Issues Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jaigurda. I am really excited to read the Do's and Donuts of Love by Adiba Jaigurda, which is her latest book, but I just don't feel the need to keep these on my shelves, I don't think. I have read them both before. I preferred this one over The Henna Wars, and these are really pretty covers, so I am less inclined to part with them. But as I said, I just don't think I'm going to reread these, so I think it's time for them to go. The next one is A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahera Mafi, and I loved this book so much when I read it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and the reason I'm preparing myself to part with this is because it's one that I definitely think is quite young now. It's set around a like 15-16-year-old, and I know my friend Courtney read this in the past couple of years on my recommendation, and she said it felt very young to her, and that was a couple of years ago. So I feel like if I did reread this now, I wouldn't have the same appreciation for it than I did when I was younger. So I read this one quite soon after it came out. Came out in 2018, so I was probably around 17, 18 when I read it, so I just don't think I'll have the same appreciation for it now if I read it again, so I think it's probably time to part ways with this one, which makes me sad, but I think it's time. The next one is Only on the Weekends by Dean Atta. I really love Dean Atta's writing, and I'm keeping The Black Flamingo because I think it's an absolutely astounding book. I don't tend to go for books written in verse that often, so it does really like impress me when I really like one. I didn't love this one as much as I loved The Black Flamingo, so I think I'm ready to part ways with this one. I don't see myself rereading it, but I'm keeping The Black Flamingo because I love that one so much and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I did still give this one 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was great, but I just don't think I'm going to reread this one, whereas I do see myself maybe rereading The Black Flamingo. The next one is Call It What You Want by Bridget Kemmerer. There's a couple of these that are signed and personalised to me, which means I'm more like less inclined to unhaul them, obviously, but I just don't think I'm going to reread this one either. I loved this one when I read it, and I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. I think I had a proof copy of it in 2019 before it came out. 2019, but again, I just don't think I'd enjoy it as much if I reread it now, so I think it's time to part ways with this one. I do love this edition though, this pink edition, and I am keeping my fantasy Bridget Kemmerer book, so I definitely don't feel like I'm ready to part ways with all of them, or I'm inclined to part ways with all of them. I just don't think I'll reread this one anytime soon. Okay, time for the next shelf down, which is this one, which I think I have a bit of a difficult decision to make on this shelf, but I will show you in a second and we'll see. So firstly, I'm going to unhaul Firebird by Sunmi. This is a proof copy of a graphic novel that I received earlier this year, and I did enjoy this one, just not enough to keep it. I'm not going to reread it, I don't think. It's also incredibly unfinished, as a lot of graphic novel proofs are. Goes to black and white for most of the book, and it's just the first bit that is printed in the final colours and the final paper, because it would be so expensive to print proof copies that were entirely the finished graphic novels with the finished paper quality and colouring, which I don't mind at all. It's just that I don't see myself rereading this one. I think if I did have a finished copy, I'd be more inclined to keep it and maybe reread it, but with this one I think it's time to let it go. Then the ones that are going to go in a maybe pile for now is my paperbacks of City of Bones, the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, because I have the coloured editions, the colourful ones that you can see on this shelf here, which I prefer. These are the adult paperbacks, they're the ones I sought out to buy. They're like a matte cover, they're really pretty, they have each colour assigned to the different paperback, so it's a few different colours on there. And then I also have this set, which is a very cheap, shiny set that I bought years ago in a box set. It was probably, I think it was like a tenner, it was really cheap, and I have had them ever since. The reason I'm less inclined to get rid of them is because the spines do match my editions of The Infernal Devices and they look so nice together on the shelf. However, I just don't think I need two sets of Cassandra Clare of these books, considering I have so much Cassandra Clare on these shelves. This entire shelf of hardbacks is Cassie, and there's more on the shelf below it as well. So I think I might need to be a bit strict with myself and unhaul these too. I don't like these covers at all as well. I am purely keeping these because of the spines, and 6 books on my shelf would be a lot of space to get back. So I'm inclined to actually unhaul these, but I'm going to put them in the maybe pile for now, I think. And it does still leave me with the spines that I love on the Infernal Devices set, so it's not like I'm losing this design completely. I also don't have matching ones in the Dark Artifices, so it's not like I have a complete run of all of them. And I have middling opinions, like I have a lesser opinion about these than I do about the Infernal Devices and the Dark Artifices. These are probably my least favourite Cassie Clare series, to be completely honest. If I'm being brutal, I still really enjoyed them. So I think it might be time to unhaul these, and if I did ever want them back, I think they are still really cheap to buy a box set of these. They're quite scuffed as well because I read these copies, so they are quite like scuffed around the edges and they don't keep that well, so I might be moving these to the definitely pile, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, this entire shelf is staying. These are all new acquisitions to my shelves. The ones behind, as I said, is my hardback Cassie Clare collection. There is a couple of others that I don't want to get rid of that are on the top of the hardbacks as well. So I think that shelf is fairly safe, and I think the same goes for this one as well. I have more Cassie Clare books. These are new acquisitions to my shelves. Then the only other ones behind there is the Kingdom of the Curse series by Kerry Maniscalco, my hardbacks, and my hardbacks of Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After, which I honestly should sort through at some point because I have like 6 copies of each, which is insane. But when I've looked through them in the past, I've not been inclined to unhaul any of them. So they're staying for now. They're also face out, which saves a little bit of space, and maybe we'll reflect on that once I have my copies of the last book in the series. A Curse for True Love is the last one that comes out later this year. Maybe I'll reevaluate if I don't get so many editions of that book, but for now I think those are all staying. Okay, we are sat on the floor for the last 3 shelves down here, so please forgive this angle, forgive all of the stuff behind me, which is like packing stuff for the move. So I'm going to go through these 3 shelves while you're down here with me and actually take all of these off and look behind them, because all of these are double stacked. This is where my book buying problem is really coming into effect and showing how little space I have. But firstly, I'm gonna go through this shelf. I don't think there's too much to unhaul on these couple of shelves, but there is a couple I've had my eye on unhauling for a while, so let's get started. The first one is While That Was Unexpected by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I read this one very recently. I did enjoy it. It's like a YA Crazy Rich Asian style book that was recommended to me by my friend Sophie, and this is a proof copy that the publisher sent me. And I did enjoy this one, I just don't see myself rereading it, as I've said with a few others, so I think it's time for this one to go. I have kept hold of it for a month or so just to see if I did want to change my mind, but when I finished this one I had an inkling that it would be time to part with it fairly soon. Just having a peek behind there is my Makoto Shinkai collection of manga and light novels, so I'm not inclined to part with any of those because I love Makoto Shinkai to bits. Then we have these few which are new books that I've acquired, which are just sat on the front there, so I'm not getting rid of any of those. I am going to unhaul this proof copy of Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. I bought this on a whim because I was so excited to see a proof copy of this second hand, but it is incredibly similar to my standard edition of Holding Up the Universe, which is actually signed and personalised to me from when I met Jennifer Niven. It's double signed as well because I must have bought it signed initially. So I am not inclined to keep both of these. It does break my heart a little to get rid of this because I was so excited when I bought it, but they're just so similar on my shelf that I just don't think I need to keep both of them. Because this is signed and personalised to me, I'm more inclined to keep this one, and I have such a precious memory of when I met Jennifer Niven and I cried and she hugged me and it was so lovely, so I definitely want to keep hold of that one, so I think it's time for this one to go, as much as it does mean a lot to me. These ones are all staying. I do love my Harper proofs and I have a whole set of them, so unless I really don't... Oops. So unless I do feel inclined to unhaul one, I tend to keep them because they're like a little set for me and I just enjoy a lot of them quite a lot. But I wasn't sure what was behind here, so let's see if we want to unhaul any of these. The only one I have been considering fairly recently is this edition of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which is a coloured in edition. Like you can colour it in, so it's not coloured in right now. I haven't actually ever done anything with it. But the idea of this is that you can colour in the cover. It's the old style cover. This is incredibly hard to find. I think there's a very limited run. So I am really unsure on whether to actually unhaul this because it is very limited. I know how rare these are. But I don't know. I have 2 other editions of Carry On if I remember correctly. So I think I might keep this one for now, to be honest, because I just think it's quite a precious book to have and I'm very lucky to have it. I just don't see myself ever colouring it in, it feels too precious. So for now I will keep it with my Rainbow Rowell collection, which I'm also not going to unhaul, and I'm going to leave for now. These ones I'm less sure about. If I had all of the hardbacks in the hardback collector's editions, I would definitely unhaul these. But they haven't actually done them all in hardback, it's only Anna that they've done in hardback. I'm not a big fan of these covers. I think they look really nice on the shelf, but I also kind of forgot that I owned them, I'm not gonna lie, which is the beauty of having them behind other books. And also these are quite bad quality paperbacks. The front is like peeling off in a lot of places from when I've read it. I'm gonna put these in the maybe pile, I think, so I'm just not 100% sure about those. But am I going to reread them? Probably not, so it probably would be smart to unhaul them really. On to the next shelf. There is a couple on the front I think I'm ready to part with. The first one being The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. I actually read this one on a Kindle, like an e-proof copy, an e-arc, and I loved it so much at the time that I just bought the paperback pretty much straight away because I do love this cover too. But this one I remember being quite young, like I think this is almost pre-teen, and I just think I would find it very young if I reread it now. I did really enjoy it though, and I would highly recommend it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant when I read it before. I just don't see myself going back to it, so I don't think I need it on my shelf. The other one that I don't think I'm going to keep is The Lies We Tell by Katie Zhao. Again, this is a thriller I read a few months ago, probably not going to reread it because it's a thriller, so I know what happens. I'm not a massive fan of the cover. I don't really like people on the cover of books, to be honest. I do have a copy of How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao, which I still want to read. And I was kind of holding on to this because they match, and if I wanted a set then I could keep both of them. However, I just don't think I need to keep this one, or I'm really that inclined to keep it, so I'm a bit more unsure about this one, to be honest, but if I did want it in the future I could always repurchase it. It's not gonna, like, it's a paperback, so it's a cheap paperback. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this cover either. And then the other one is The Other Ones by Fran Hart. Again, I love this book. I read it last year. It's quite young personally for me, so I don't think I would reread it, and it wasn't like a 5-star. I mainly bought it because of the sprayed edges, because they're so pretty. But I had 2 copies of this. Mark has a standard paperback, so I'm going to swap Mark's standard paperback for the sprayed edged edition so he can keep it. Because I think he wants to read it as well, because this one has been a liken to Heartstopper, and I did enjoy it. I just don't think I'm gonna reread it, so I'm gonna give this one to Mark. So I'm gonna give this one to Mark and unhaul the standard paperback edition that we have. I'm seeing some books that I've forgotten about, but I'm not inclined to unhaul them. I completely forgot that I had It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is on the wrong shelf because it's an adult book, so it belongs on my top shelf, so I'm going to move it, but I'm going to keep it because I haven't read it yet. And I forgot it was behind there. These ones I am keeping, these I'm keeping, these are definitely I am keeping. While we are here, a little bit of lore about my channel. This is the book that my channel is named after and my blog was originally named after and is named after. It doesn't just come out of nowhere, it comes from this book, The Sky is Everywhere, which I was reading at the time of starting my blog and I loved. So my book is not called my channel is not called The Books Are Everywhere Out of Nowhere. It's from The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. But I do have 2 very similar paperback copies of this. I think I'm inclined to... This one is personalised to me and it is signed because I did meet Jandy Nelson, so I don't really want to unhaul it because it does have sentimental value because of this channel, so I'm going to keep this one here. These ones I loved so much as a teenager. They are definitely staying. I love the illustrated edition, so keeping those. And then I'm going to unhaul this copy of Girls in Love by Jacqueline Wilson. I bought this to get it signed at Yelp last year and I didn't manage to meet Jacqueline Wilson in the end. So I'm not really inclined to keep this because it doesn't have sentimental value for me. It's not the edition I had as a child. And I have also recently bought the other Edie Trimmer, which is her latest book, and it's also signed, so that one has more value to me than this one right now. And I only reread it last year, so I don't really see myself rereading it again. So I think it's time to unhaul this one. It's not one I would technically... I don't think I'd choose to reread this one if you said which Jacqueline Wilson book do you want to reread anyway. It is one that I loved as a teenager, but it's not like one of my favourites, so I'm gonna unhaul this one. I mainly bought it because I wanted her to sign something that I did read when I was younger, and then I didn't manage to get it signed anyway, and I have my signed other Edie Trimmer, so it's time to unhaul this one. Okay, so only a couple off that shelf, but it's better than nothing. Well, I have created some space on that shelf. It's not much, but there's a little bit. Then on to the final shelf of this bookcase, and then we'll go on to the other one. This is turning out to be a much longer video than I planned, but there's definitely a lot less on the other bookcase that I'm willing to part with, so let's go through this one. The first one on here is Burn Down, Rise Up by Vincent Torrado. This one is signed and personalised to me. I met Vincent at Yelp last year, however I didn't love this book and I'm not a big fan of the design of the cover, especially the under the dust jacket, which is quite freaky to be honest. So I'm not really inclined to keep this one too much, to be completely honest. I will admit a lot of these I keep because they're really part of like the same hardback American set that I have. I see them as like a set because they're all the same size and they're just so cute together, so I do hold on to a lot of these like YA contemporaries because they match, which is not a reason to keep hold of books, but you know, I'm doing it. The next one is The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I don't know why I bought this. This is just one of those books that I just got wrapped up in the hype for. I just don't need it. I also thought that it would match. Hang on, I will grab it. I bought this because I thought it would match this. Alas, they do not. So I'm just less inclined to keep this one because I thought this would be a nice set. And they ruined it. And I need to just pick up a paperback of this anyway because I do still want to read it. I just don't want this chunky edition that annoys me because it's too big and it's bigger than all of my other books, and it doesn't even match my like little nice hardbacks. So I don't need this on my shelf. I will buy a paperback, which is probably already available because this came out last year. So this one can go on the unhaul pile. And the rest of the ones on this shelf are ones that I haven't read yet or I want to keep, or they're my Afterlight books, which I'm definitely not getting rid of, or they're my Alice Oseman collection. Basically, all of the others are staying, but let's find out what's behind them. I'm not sure how well you can see from there, but this is what I mean about the matching books that I have. So if I had some of these in standard paperbacks, I'd probably not need to keep them or want to keep them. However, these are like a beautiful set to me. They all match. I'm hoping I can have them more on display when I move, because I don't like hiding them down here. But yeah, I don't think there's anything on here that I'm willing to part with, to be honest, because I really like how these look together. I think they are beautiful. Okay, we are going on to the second bookcase, which is here. Just to acknowledge these, I am collecting these. There is no way these are going anywhere. None of the ones on my mantelpiece are going anywhere. They will definitely be staying and coming with me into the new place. Same with this weird little shelf I have here, which is mainly Blu-rays and DVDs and games and things. But I do have a couple of non-fiction books on there that you might see. I tend to keep non-fiction and have a much smaller collection and don't really count it as part of my overall fiction collection. So those are staying. But this bookcase is the one we're going through on this video. There's definitely less on here that I'm getting rid of, so this is not going to take as long as the first half of the video. But first going to start with the ones on the very top, and on the top shelf I don't think there's any I'm going to unhaul on the top, this shelf here, but there is a couple on the very top, so I'm going to get those down. Okay, it's only one from the top shelf that I'm going to unhaul, and that is Hooky, and this is a graphic novel. It's a middle grade graphic novel that I loved the look of. I thought it was really cute. The art style is honestly absolutely beautiful. I would frame some of these pages, especially the ones that have bigger illustrations on, which I'm trying to find an example of for you. But this, like the colour palette, it's just stunning, and I did really love the art style of this, but it just felt like it went on forever. Especially for a graphic novel middle grade, like a middle grade graphic novel. I just didn't hook me. I did not mean to make that joke. But it didn't hook me, and I'm not planning on continuing with the series. I mean, these are beautiful pages, as you can see. Trying to find one that I would 100% I would frame some of these, but I remember there being like bigger drawings, like single pages or double pages, more like that, that I can't find right now. But yeah, I'm not going to reread this one. I'm not going to continue with the series. It's a shame to unhaul it because it's just so beautiful, and this is what I mean about graphic novels and why I struggle with them. However, I don't think I need to keep this. The next shelf to go through is this one. I did have a quick glance at the top one while I was up there, but it's mainly collector's editions of my Sarah J Maas books, my Stalking Jack the Ripper set, my DC Icon series, and my, what's the other one that's up there, but From Blood and Ash, Luma Crate or Fairy Loot set. Can't remember which one I got now. Fairy Loot? But it's those sets, so those are staying. I don't think there's any on here, but I'm gonna have a quick glance through anyway. Again, I'm teetering over a copy of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, just because this is the old hardback. I do also have a new hardback that matches my hardback set that I have. However, I think these are quite limited, so I don't really want to unhaul it. I loved this design at the time of like buying it, and I loved the book when I read it as well. It's also personalised to me and signed to me because I have met Rainbow once or twice, so I think it might be staying for now, to be completely honest, but maybe I'll consider it again in the future. The other ones on here are my special edition Night Circus Starless Sea. I have been thinking about these, but I think I've decided to keep hold of them because there's just not one that I'm willing to part with necessarily. I am blessed with the Illumicrate edition and a proof copy of this, but they do match as well. They make a nice little set on my shelf. So this is the next shelf, which again, I think I'm going to keep everything on, but we'll have a quick look through anyway. And these shelves do have less stacked in front of, so again, they have less books on, so it'll be quicker to go through. But we'll just give it a glance. I am thinking about unhauling Legends and Lattes because I would like the US paperback edition. I've been with Courtney the past few days and she has that edition and it's so pretty. And I do much prefer it to this one, and I much prefer the US edition of Bookshots and Bone Dust, which is the second one in this series, over the UK one. So I am maybe going to part with this one to get the US edition, the US paperback. However, this is a proof copy as well, so it's not actually out in paperback yet in the UK. So I'm unsure. I think I would need to actually purchase the second one to feel like I could part with this one. I think I would need to purchase the US edition to feel like I could part with this one. But it is still readily available, so I could do that now. So going to put it on the unhaul pile. This shelf here is mainly V. Schwab, so it'll come as no surprise that I'm not willing to part with a lot of things on this shelf. I'm putting A Secret of Birds and Bone by Kira Millward Hargrave in the maybe pile because I do have a lovely set of Kira Millward Hargrave books. However, I don't have all of them in hardback, so there's not a reason for me to keep a collection of them if I don't love every single book in it, if that makes sense. It's not complete, so what's the point? It's the way my brain works. I don't know if any of you are the same. I did enjoy this one, but not enough that I necessarily need to keep a copy, and I don't have all of her books in hardback, as I said. So I am going to part ways with this one. Next shelf is this one. Don't think there's much on it that I'm willing to part ways with, but let's have a look. I was literally about to say that I'm going to part ways with this one because it's I've got two of these. Like, I have the purple one and I have the grey one. I don't really know why I need both of these. And then I open the front of it and it's signed and personalised to me. Why? When did I get this signed? I don't even know. So now I suddenly think maybe I'm keeping both of these, and maybe that's why I have them both. I don't need to, like, I genuinely don't need to keep this one because I have so many Leigh Bardugo books that are signed and personalised to me, and if I can't even remember where I got this signed and when, it's not exactly holding a memory for me. I have met her a few times now, like maybe 3 times. So I think maybe I'll part ways with this one. I might offer this to Courtney because she does have a paperback set as well. I can't remember if I got her the purple or the grey. But yeah, these are the old style paperback covers, which I love them. I'm really glad I have them. Don't need 2 copies that are basically the same. So even though this is signed, most of my Leigh Bardugo books are, like my hardback ones, so I think it's probably time to part ways with that one. We're back on the floor again to do the last couple of shelves on here. This shelf I am not even going to touch because it is mainly Leigh Bardugo, like a collection of Leigh Bardugo books and Stephanie Garber books that I'm not willing to part with. I have the hidden cover editions of Caraval and the Fairy Loot editions of Caraval, and I have the Illumicrate editions of Ninth House, and then my hardbacks of all the Leigh Bardugo books. So I'm not willing to part with any of those. And this one's a random one that fit in here that I haven't read yet, so I'm keeping that one for now. Please ignore all the boxes behind me again. House stuff, packing stuff. But this is the next shelf to go through. I don't know what's behind here, but I don't think there's anything I'm willing to part with, to be honest. Okay, there might be a book behind there that I am willing to part with. I'm also going to part with this edition of Glow by Raven Kennedy because I have none of the other books. Penguin sent me this one when it came out, but didn't send me the rest of the series. I think it just got missed, to be honest, because they were meant to be sending me the rest of the series. And I don't need a hardback when I can't even get the others in hardback, and I'm not bothered about having them in hardback. I am unsure whether I even want to read this series, but I was going to take them when offered and actually just try them out. However, I don't have a need for the 5th book in the series, or the 4th. Is it the 5th? I don't know Roman numerals. I don't know which book this is. I think it's the 5th. But that to me is 4. Maybe it's the 4th? It must be the 4th. But yeah, I don't need this, so it's going. The other one I'm going to unhaul is The Revelry by Catherine Webber. I was reluctant to unhaul this because I have all of Katie Webber's books and I do love them. This is majorly sun damaged as well, and I must have not met her Yalk because there is a Yalk tag in here from last year, but it's not signed. So I have read this. I didn't love it. It was like 3 stars, I think. Don't really remember a lot about it, and I'm not a big fan of this cover, so I'm going to unhaul that one. Now we're on to this one. I don't know what's behind here again. There's nothing on the front that I can see that I'm willing to part ways with necessarily. I love this sprayed edged of Fireborn to unhaul it. It's just so pretty. I do have these behind here, which I did forget that I had, honestly. This one I think I'm definitely going to keep. It's signed and personalised to me, and I did really enjoy this one. I just didn't really enjoy the second one in the series, to be completely honest, and I don't think I'm bothered about having them. It was a clearance book that I bought for £1, so I can see why I have it. But I was reading the audiobooks of these and I just didn't really enjoy the second one very much, so now it's been a while. I'm not sure if I'm going to carry on with the series at all, to be honest. But I did really like this one, and I think at the time I was going to collect all of these because I do like how they look on my shelf, but I don't think that's going to happen, to be completely honest, so I'm going to unhaul that one and keep the first one. Last but not least, we have this bottom shelf here, which is a real mixture of sci-fi and fantasy. I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 on here I'm willing to part ways with. The gap in the middle is where my Starbound collection came from, so those have already been unhauled. The other one on here I can see that I'm probably going to unhaul is Horror Hotel by Victoria Fulton and Faith McLaren. I liked this one, but it definitely didn't impress me all that much. I think it was maybe a 3.5 star. The reason I would keep this is for the cover alone. I love the cover so much, and I bought it mainly for the cover, to be completely honest. And it was okay, but I don't really see myself rereading it, so I probably just need to part ways with this beautiful cover and unhaul it, because I'm not going to reread it. This is a really random collection of here. It's stuff that doesn't fit in other places, but it's not anything I'm willing to unhaul, so that can stay down there. And that is everything, so I'm going to count how many are in this stack that I'm going to unhaul. Okay, these are all of the books that I'm going to unhaul. Did forget about those, which are going to marks. So I counted 53, but there's actually 55 here, which I am really proud of. The one at the back is because I actually need to read it before I unhaul it. But other than that, they're all going, and there's 55 books here. I don't know how many I expected to unhaul, but 55 is a number I am pretty proud of, and I do feel like I have been quite thorough with what I've decided to unhaul. There are some things I didn't necessarily expect to come across and feel like I was ready to part with them, or that I would rather not have them taking up space on my shelves. I do gain so many books every month, a lot from publishers. I am so happy and grateful to receive, but it just does mean that I acquire quite a lot of books quite frequently, so it's going to be really helpful to have the space on my shelves I have created. As you can see, there's quite a lot of gaps here, which I really appreciate, and I do feel like I'm in a much better position to be moving my books now to the new place and packing up these books, and that I am going to be really happy with the collection that I have remaining. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I unhauled a book that you really love. I'm sorry. Most of these will be going to friends, and I will be offering them to people that I know, so that is mainly where these are going to be going, and some of them will probably be donated to charity as well. So yeah, they're all ready to go. Just need to sort through that. But anyway, thank you for joining me for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I'm sorry if I unhauled any of your favourites, but it was really fun to do this, and I'm glad I had the motivation to do it. So here we go, it is done. The next step is packing. I'll see you in another video.